Hi, I'm Graham from Second Era of Moles, and if you clicked on this video accidentally, 90 seconds is all I ever ask. It's been another busy week on Pokemon Masters X. Outside of the Champion Stadium, which was in Alola, it's been a very Sinnoh heavy week, with the latest portion of the Sinnoh villain arc being released. We've had another Galactic Awakening event. We've had Cynthia with her determination in the extreme battles. So let's crack on with this, shall we? The Champion Stadium gets a bit of a shake-up this week with Molayne and Hao tagging in for Hala and Kukui. So in round 1, your condition is a status conditions boost. I chose to take on Molayne for this one. You know, you sub in, you're first up, you got to take your opportunity immediately. He was weak to fire types, so I took him on with a team of Leon and Charizard, Anniversary N and Reshiram, and Signasuit Erica and Leafeon. So this is a little bit of a different Sun team. I wanted to show that you can go with someone else other than Blaine to make a Sun team work. Leon's Inferno really sort of rolls into the condition with this one because he needs burn on the enemy team to make his Inferno and his Sync move even more powerful. So you've got to remember to have your status conditions allowed. Don't pick it as one of your points options. So you start off striking a pose with Leon. I don't know if he poses like that. And that's going to give you stats boost, Sync move, countdown, and a free move next, which is very useful. N starts off with Noble Roar to drop enemy attacking stats, and then goes on to Truth Will Prevail to get that move gauge going very quickly. With Erica, you're starting off using X speed, and then you're setting the sun just in time for Leon's Sync move. Unfortunately, Leafeon fainted to a Hammer Arm just after setting the sun there, which was unfortunate, but not entirely unexpected there. But you get that sun boost for Leon's Sync move. It does quite a lot of damage because he's 6x. You're then moving on to, well, you probably get a Striker Pose refresh, so you're using that again, then more Inferno. Blue starts off with Noble Roar again to drop those stats, and then moves on to Blue Flare later on. Getting refreshes on Striker Pose are very helpful there because it will allow you to hit on both a Blue Flare and an Inferno in the same round, which usually would cost you 8 bars, but if you get a free one, then it's only the usual 4. Obviously that's helpful in doing big damage to the sides and into the middle. You get another Sync move in there with Leon, and that should be Molayne done. First up, first out, as it were. In round 2, you get a special attack boost. With Kahili being weak to psychic types, it made sense to take her on with this one. So the team I chose was Xerneas and Sycamore, Mewtwo and Giovanni, and Musharna and Bianca. So it's really Musharna's psychic terrain that helps this one in a huge way. Terrains and weather are such a key to this game, and crit hits. Those sort of things are really what makes you a lot better at the game as it gets into the later content. You start off with Nowhere to Hide with Giovanni to boost that evasiveness and crit hit rate. Bianca sets Psychic Terrain and then is doing You Snooze You Lose to get those stats boosts. Xerneas is doing Dazzling Gleam. There's a chance that Xerneas will be made to flinch, which makes things a little bit more difficult because then you have to use a World is Vast early. If you don't get a refresh, then you miss a turn and you're out of that sync cycle. Yeah, so get down to that first sync move and it goes to Xerneas to boost special attack, defense, and speed, which are all very useful. You're then moving on to using Psychic with Mewtwo. I experimented with using Shadow Ball as well, because that will drop special defense at a greater rate, but that extra psychic damage seemed to be doing a better job for me. Musharna is using up any You Snooze You Lose, resetting Psychic Terrain to boost up all of those psychic attacks. Xerneas is probably doing Dazzling Gleam, setting the World as Vast as well if needed. Xerneas actually fainted in this phase for me, which was unfortunate, mostly due to the flinching. If I could have got a few more Horn Leeches in there, I probably would have survived it. With your Psychics with Mewtwo, I'd recommend doing one to each side to make sure that they're not at full health when that sync move comes, because if they are, it's going to leave them still standing with a little bit of health, and you've got to go in and do more attacks to them. It's much easier if you can do it to them first and then wipe through that team with your big sync move. And because I was out of the sort of sync move cycle, Kahili's sync move came in first. It left Mew with like 5-10% health, but then Mew was able to come back with his own sync move and just steamroller over everything that was left. When you get to round 3, your condition is a sync move stats boost. I chose to take on Olivia for this one. She was weak to earth types this week. Went off type with this one, so my team was Barry and Empoleon, Misty and Starmie, and Skylar and Swanna as the tank in there. And as I say, I don't usually tend to go off type, but because your earth types, Cynthia and Groudon, they're kind of rare, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'll just go through with them. It's much more difficult to be like, right, these are more available units to everyone. And the key to this one is having enough health left with Misty to survive the earth powers that are going to come her way, because they are going to do a lot of damage. But if you can take enough of those hits and heal up after them, you should be in good stead. So you start off with no hesitation with Barry to boost that speed, special attack, crit hit rate. You start off doing Gust with Skylar, because if you do take flight too early, it's going to boost that speed for Barry, and he's not necessarily going to get all of those boosts from no hesitation. With Misty, you're starting off raising special defense, then using a catch us if you can, because that's going to boost evasiveness and also give a bit of healing. Sometimes it gives you some health back as well, so it's very useful. That should take you down to your first sync move, which is going to go to Skylar, because After that, you're starting off with Bubble Beam with Barry to do as much damage into the middle as you can. Misty, if the move gauge is there, she's doing Bubble Beam herself to get a little bit of healing. If someone needs topping up on health, she can use a catch us if you can on them as well. Skylar is now using up any take flights that she had remaining. If she doesn't have any left, then you're going on to Gust, because that's going to auto refresh. Second sync move goes on to Barry. Not quite a Barry bomb this time. Doesn't do the huge damage that it usually does. More of a Barry grenade that you kind of chuck over at them. Olivia's sync move is not too bad, so it's not like you have to be fearful when that comes. Afterwards, she's going to use Hard as Diamonds. I had no stats reductions as one of my points options. That side. So that meant she didn't get the associated defense drops that come with it. This is where she starts using Earth Power though. She'll use Earth Power or Ancient Power. Ancient Power is going to do a little sliver, but you've got to have pretty much full health on Misty when Earth Power comes, because it's going to do like 80% plus of her health bar, and if she can survive sort of 1, probably not going to help. If she can survive 2, gives you a chance 3 or more, then you should be in really good stead to finish this one off. It's going to take 3 sync moves from Barry probably to get you through this one, so obviously you need that time to get all of those sync moves in, and Misty surviving goes a long way to doing that. In round 4, you get a sync move countdown reduction. I took on Acerola with this one. She was weak to dark types, so my team was the Masked Royal and Incineroar, Piers and Obstagoon, and Hop and Zamazenta. Yeah, nailed it on the first try there. I'm seriously considering investing in Signasuit Cyrus for an additional dark type unit. I don't have Mighty Ina, and it's kind of the top tier, so we'll see. But you're starting off this one doing a couple of ready fights with the Masked Royal. Piers is using a direct hit all to boost everyone's crit hit rate. Hop is using Hop to it and then a Behemoth Bash, because you only need 5 moves to get down to that first sync move. That should do you. You're syncing with Piers. Aim it at one of the sides to do some damage onto there. It's better than investing it in damage in the middle. After that, you're using 1 X attack to max out the Masked Royal's attack, and then you're moving on to doing Brutal Swings. That's going to do damage to all of the other team. It's also going to do stats reductions, so make sure that you've got stats reductions allowed. That feeds into the Masked Royal's sync move as well, so That's why we're doing that. If it reduces everyone's stat, makes the sync move that much more powerful. Hop is using up any remaining hop to it. It's then going with Metal Claw. It's got potions in there which you can use on Piers if he's taking 2 big hits. With Piers, you're using Shout My Name to keep that move gauge topped up, and then you're using Obstruct to be really stally and tanky and irritating to the other team. When that second sync move comes, you're going to aim it down the middle. You're still going to be attacking the sides outside of that, but sync moves all go at the middle to do lots of big damage there. You do some more brutal swings in the next round, and then you start moving on to Darkest Lariat to take out one of the sides. Don't think you'll be able to take out both before that next sync move comes. Hop is still Metal Claw, potions. It's really Piers that you have to be worrying about and managing carefully, because between his obstructs and then the attacks that he takes when he's not obstructing and Shout My Name, you have to make sure that he has something there that's going to protect him from being absolutely wiped out, and you just have to be quick on the draw or know what you're going to have coming up as soon as he takes one of those hits. But your next sync move is going to come along. It's going to wipe out the one in the middle. It's written down it's a Gengar. I'm not entirely sure if that's right or not. Then you're doing Darkest Lariats at the remaining side. Because the Master Royale has upped its evasiveness, it should be able to dodge a couple of those icy winds and then spin in there a couple of times and take it out. Take it out! Onto the champion round then, where you're taking on How this week instead of Kukui. The permanent condition is move effects are more likely, the additional ones. I chose the optional condition of status conditions boost, because How was weak to poison types this week. I went in with a team of Koga and Crobat, Viola and Masquerain, and Signasu, Leaf and Venusaur. A couple of weeks ago I talked about how I like that combination of Venusaur and Koga for good poison damage in there. On my first run though, How obviously didn't get the message that status conditions were boost, because I did at least 6 Razor Leafs with Venusaur. Not a single one got any poison onto the enemy team. The only poison came on a Crobat Poison Fang, and it's like irritating. But you're starting off with Razor Leaf with Venusaur to try and get that poison. Koga is using X Speed to try and get that evasiveness boost for the team. Also speed boost, very useful in there as well. Viola is setting Trap with Infestation for that additional damage, and then moving on to Struggle Bug to reduce that special attack. Ooh, not sure if How uses special attacks in this one or not. It's always useful to have in there. Make sure that you do have stats reductions on for this one, because in addition to those special attack drops from Struggle Bug, Venusaur's passives drop defense and special defense, and that's always very useful. Your first sync move is going to go to Venusaur to get Mega Venusaur onto the field. I have her gridded with Adrenaline 1 or 2. That reduces the sync move countdown. You can then move in that next phase. You can get Mega Healing. That's going to give you sync move countdown reduction as well. And it's going to start passive healing on the entire team. Koga here is using Move Like a Shadow to boost his remaining stats, evasiveness, crit hit rate. Viola's still using Struggle Bug for those stats reductions, very helpful. You should get your second sync move in there first before How gets his one. Hopefully you've done some poisoning at this point, so you're going with Koga. That's going to do more damage if there's poison on the other team. One thing that irritates me is that Primarina uses Scald. It's a water type. How does it cause burn? Really don't understand that. I got a lot of burn onto Venusaur, so it was mostly sort of using potions rather than attacks. That can slow down if you don't manage to set poison early. When How's sync move comes, it does reasonable damage. It's not the hugest hit that I've ever seen from a champion round. So you're carrying on with your Venoshock. If you're doing good damage, you can set Trap onto the 2 sides as well, so that when it comes to it, they're going to take trap damage and poison damage. With Venusaur, you're really just trying to stay alive, either with your healing when you use your Razor Leaf, or with your potions that you've got stacked up as well. And then when Hal goes down, you just need to survive a couple of rounds of attacks from the side. They do hit hard, but if you've got some evasiveness luck, or if you've got some potions, you should be able to withstand that rather easily. And that is our second 10k point run for the Alola region. Hey, good job everyone. Next week we're still in the Alola region. I'm not sure who's tagging in and out for the Elite Four and the Champion, but we'll see. So confusing. Why not just have it fixed? So part 2 of the Sinnoh villain arc has been released now. I'm not quite sure that this story resolved itself entirely. It feels like, I don't know, it's like, oh, this is where it's got to end. So yeah, this is the resolution whether you like it or not. It leaves the door open for, it to come back later, so I wonder if that's what they're going to do at some point. It was interesting though, I enjoyed it. And in conjunction with the new story arc, we've got the Galactic Awakening event come along. So you get a daily battle and you can earn another Sinnoh ticket for that as well. Very useful with the Galactic Nightmare event. You get like 2 a day, which stacks up very, very nicely. You have the battle challenge with that one. You can earn another 2 tokens for that one. The first is to use 3 Sinnoh types. I would say that's probably the easier one because you've got a wider pool and they all get like a 5 times boost for that one. I'm not going to go through my team for that one. The second one though, much more interesting, is to use a Dark type and a Psychic type on your team. See, that's trying to get you to pull for both Darkrai and Cresselia because they're the only Dark type and Psychic type in the Sinnoh region. Very irritating. But if you don't have them, good news, you can still do it. So the team I went for was Palkia, Piers and Obstagoon, and Liza and Lunatone. The idea was just to spam Obstruct and to nullify as many attacks as possible in there, and then hope that Palkia can do as much damage with his 6x and big moves in there to win the battle. So you use one New World Order with Palkia, and then it gets the rest of the special attack boosts from Lyra. It's going in with the big sync move to do damage to across the board. The key is to have vigilance for both Liza and for Piers, because Cyrus is going to use Sure Crit All before his sync move, and if you don't have vigilance, that's going to wipe out both of your supports. So if you can get through to that second sync move unscathed, you should be able to wipe out Cyrus and his team. You may need to give it a few tries to line up the Obstruct and the Shout My Name and surviving sync moves, but when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be impossible, so I was kind of relieved to find that I could find a strategy reasonably quickly. In some cases, I was even able to take Cyrus out before it used its sync move. That might have actually made it a bit more difficult because the sides then use the attacks that hit everyone, and that can wear down your 2 supports quite quickly, and you can only do it with one of them fainting. So yeah, it might be an idea to do some damage to the sides during the normal course of play to make sure that your sync move will wipe them out. The final new event this week was the Extreme Battle, Cynthia's Determination. Seems she wasn't quite determined enough, was she? Because I managed to take her down. I was a little bit surprised at this one because it was week 2 Dragon types, and it's like, okay then, so this one's built for Palkia. Are we doing this again? Okay, so the team I went for the second round was Cyrus and Palkia, Thornton and Bronzong, and Dawn and Torterra. The idea was to use Zen Headbutt to get some flinching in there. I thought maybe if I did it first up it would stop Cynthia from using Ghost Zone. It didn't. She'll use that whatever happens, it won't stop it. So Palkia raises itself up with New World Order, Dawn raises everyone's defense, gets that first sync move as 6x, and then you're using Spatial Rend on the enemy to do as much damage as possible. You can use a telekinesis on Giratina. That'll mean that all of your attacks are going to hit, which is always very useful. Thankfully, the Ghost Wish doesn't last all the way up until Cynthia's Sync move. If it had have done, that probably would have been very problematic for me. I mentioned using New World Order. I used the second one just before Dawn's Sync move, so I then had to use a New World Order, Good as New, to ensure that it survived. But you get a couple of sync moves from Cyrus and Palkia, and it should be enough to take out Giratina. I don't know why, but sometimes I call it Giratina with a instead of a G. Don't know how you say it actually. So coming up next week on the 25th, we will have another Pokemon Masters Day. Remember that you can get lots and lots of good rewards if you're like me and you don't have the achievement where you upgrade 20,000 gear. You can use that as an event to stock on both 1-star gear, 2-star gear, 3-star gear, and also the upgrade items that you need for those. Very, very useful. You get lots of rewards. They give them out like Pokemon Masters Day candy. But that's in the week that will be. This has been the week that was. You're well past the 90-second mark at this point, so thank you very much and congratulations. If you've made it this far, you might as well subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter for notifications of next week's week that was, the week that will be. Thank you very much for watching this one, and goodbye.